We're here for the Business Formation Roundtable. Thanks for joining this virtual roundtable discussion. Just here to talk about how you formed your businesses. I may even chime in myself with stuff I started in the past. This conversation is delivered for people who may be interested in building their product or service and or launching their business at the same time and spinning up that legal entity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to chat about it because I feel like we have some maybe different thoughts and how we went about it and opinions and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll start us off with a 1-minute elevator pitch. What is your venture and where are you with it? And what year did you start your venture?
So I guess I'll start. So I have a few different like LLCs that I've started. So I have a company called Kia Marketing LLC, which I run like marketing and agency style stuff under that. And then I have a real estate entity as well. Forefront Real Estate LLC. And I don't know. I've had both of those like entities for a while, probably, I don't know, 10 plus years, if I had to guess. Ish.
Paul, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to like doing business above the table myself. So I've done a lot of contract work inside of my career as a engineer working at tech companies. But recently, quite literally, I think it was this year, I actually formed a LLC. And now I have like a business bank account. I have an LLC. I can put the name of the company, which is Pim and Co. LLC, on actual documents and like invoice people with not my name but the company name. That's brand new for me, but like that's what I do now.
Paul, what led you to decide to move to getting an LLC, like versus just keep doing it the way you've been doing it?
Taxes,
Okay.
It's expensive, when you get like a 60K contract doing software engineering, and then you got to figure out how to handle the taxes on that. And then you start seeing like, wow, if I did like 2 or 3 of those deals this year, that would have been a whole different ball game of me paying the government all this money. And now it makes sense why people might have a LLC or an S corp or some other tax advantage entity for the work they're doing that isn't just going straight into self-employment taxes.
Gotcha.
Complicated answer, but that's generally why I came to that point.
Gotcha. And that's probably I would guess, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that's like more advanced for this conversation, Emmanuel, that we're aiming for. But that is that right? But that is a solid reason, and one that I've heard of people doing as well as a reason to form an entity. But I don't know. We can go into that, but you tell us, Emmanuel.
No, I think it's valid, legit, because I did the same thing for my own LLC, Explain LLC. I was like, dang, well, I host these workshops that I get paid for. I like doing photography, videography, and then recently got into website and app development too. It's like, dang, well, I express myself all the time, and I'm tired of, not having separation between personal finances and, sole prop finances are going in the same bucket. I think it's time to just step it up a notch and be a professional and be an adult and set up an entity so I can have these 2 separate buckets and know where my cash is going and pay for stuff out of the appropriate accounts.
That's a good point. Just the fact of like, if you're running a business and you can make deductions on your taxes, but to make the deduction, you need to know what you actually spent on your business is a real key reason why you might want to have some type of entity or a business banking account, so that like you don't have to sit there when tax time comes around and try to figure out, well, did I use this for my business or did I not use this? Which one of these things is actually a business expense and what can I actually put on my taxes? So that you spend less time going back and forth with the tax attorney and a lot more time actually getting a better situation done with your taxes. That's generally the reason why I've gone down that route in general. Now, there's other reasons, and like one that I feel like is very pertinent to some of the folks we're working with right now is like, the fact of trying to apply for like certain competitions or money for the company that you're making, like needing to have an LLC to be able to do those things, like that's another good reason. I didn't have to have those reasons. There weren't like competitions that I was applying to. But if it was the case that like I could win $20,000 by spending 2,000 and then going through do a competition, that's a no brainer.
Yeah, I think it's a great point you bring up, especially when it's needed for something external like a grant or for a competition, and having to have that entity in place. I think where a lot of people can get hung up is, it may be too hard, maybe too many steps to go through. And Brooks and Paul, in your opinion, what has helped you to spin up your entities when you're first just starting out and like, okay, I want to get serious about starting Kia LLC or Pimenco LLC? Is that how you pronounce it? Pimenco?
Yeah, Pim and Co. This is
And
Pim
Co.
PIM Co. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I thought it was like pimento, like cheese. I was like,
No.
oh man. I was like, that sounds delicious. So okay, I was gonna say a quick note first too about like filing one and separating expenses, and like if that being the only reason, like you don't have to do that. I was just looking it up. Like you can create a separate account, like different banks would do like a DBA account, like doing business as, and you can literally have people write a check to that DBA entity. To let's say it's let's say it was Pimento. Pimento, that's mine, like Pimento offices or something. You could have a DBA account and like actually get get checks to like Pimento offices, and I could deposit those checks and I could separate those without having an entity. So I want to throw that out there, like, because I think a lot of people do get caught up on like, I've got to have this. I have to have this. Now there is another reason, which is like liability. Like liability is a big reason you separate, and like, you start talking about like liability type stuff, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I just want to put that side note like there. I also, one other note I just want to point out is that like, I also think you should try to generate money before you ever even create an entity. A lot of people go at the opposite direction. Sorry, I know I'm going slight tangent on your question, Emmanuel, but like, I just think it's like important for me to throw these personal thoughts out. People feel like they're like, oh, I got to start a business. Okay, I need an entity. I need my local business license. I need this. I need to hire my attorney. I need my whatever. And then sometimes they get caught up in that process and never even like do anything. Who did that? I did that. I did that in college. So I started an LLC with a friend in college. We were like, well, we want to start this company. So I guess we got to have an LLC or an entity. So we're like, well, how do we do that? Oh, I guess we meet with some attorney. So we got someone to introduce us to an attorney. I don't know. We paid like $1,000 or something, like all the money we had as a college kid. We set up like an LLC. We do this. We start our projects. We never even do anything. Like we ultimately never did any business. So I'm like, man, if we just work backwards and try to like create something, and then we could have backed into the LLC. Okay. Soapbox off my soapbox there. But how did I start my entity? I filled out the form from the Secretary of State online website. You can like literally print it out, fill it out. I took it downtown Mobile, handed it to them. I wrote them a check. They filed my paperwork. I'm now a company. And before you do that, you also need an EIN number, which is like the tax number for your company. You could literally Google like get an EIN number, and you just like, I think you just literally go to the website to the IRS. You fill out the information. They give you an EIN number. Now you have that. That's how I created both of my current companies. Was not with an attorney. Sorry, attorneys. And there's also a lot of online, like companies you can use. It makes it really easy as well to do the same thing. Paul, you went a different direction, right? Like, how'd you do it?
Yeah. So it was tax season a couple months ago, and I was like, oh man, I'm not trying to have these tax problems anymore. And so I said, I need to set up an entity. And so first I went to the first thing that really like opened my eyes to it was that we had a local event here. There was a lady, she worked at a bank, and she explained what the difference is between having your personal stuff and your business stuff put together, and what does it look like to separate them. I was like, you know what, I want to separate mine. And so the first thing I did, and I'll show you very much so like a great reenactment of exactly what happened. I came over here. I said, okay, let's go to ChatGPT. How do I start a business in Alabama? Chat got to work. And then it said, number one, business idea and structure. Just so happened I was lucky enough to go to open to public like information series that was being put on by the bank that explained the difference between these things. However, there's another really easy way to learn the difference between these things. Real quick, YouTube, or just click this beautiful button right here, ask ChatGPT, and it'll explain those things to you. I
Yep.
learned after looking at this that this is probably going to be the best one for me. And so that's what I said. And given step one was just pick one, and I picked one. Next one on, click on this little guy. It says, before investing in branding, check whether the name is available. It just so happened when I went to this website here, let me make sure that I'm sharing the whole screen so y'all can see very clearly my full workflow here.
And that's actually a newer step, Paul. I'm not sure when that started, but that's a newer thing. I guess to just make sure you're like not naming your company the same as like someone else.
Yes. Yeah, I want to reserve a name. And mind you, see how quickly I went through this, right? Like I started here. It said, before investing in branding, check whether or not your desired name is available. I clicked, got to this website, and then saw reserve an entity name. I didn't read this, nor any of this stuff. I still couldn't tell you what that stuff is. I went to reserve a name, and then I got here. Here is where I was like, oh, I don't really know what I'm looking at anymore, right? There's a couple steps like from here. I could easily just take a screenshot of all of this and be like, what do I click next, chat? And chat would tell me, right? Inside of this, you said what?
That's my favorite method. Just
Yeah.
screenshots and enter.
Yeah, because like where am I going here? This is not telling me anything. If I looked at this a little bit closer, I would be able to see like this little guy right here. This is what I end up finding, like it's the name reservations, right? Then I could see name reservation again, and then it takes me here and it's showing me the prices, right? And so I'm seeing all this stuff at this point. Like I'm following along because like it's becoming very clear. I got to spend some money to be able to do this thing. And like one thing I recognize is that once I clicked on like this guy and then started going through this did it. That was done by the end of this. And swiped my card, and then I had a business, or at least I've reserved the name and registered the business, because both of these things end up happening inside that same form. Now, the next piece is the EIN. Again, same way of going about it. Click. All right, I'm here. Okay, there's a whole bunch of information here. I ain't gonna read all of this. Let me see. Before you apply, okay, forming legal entity. I just did that. Yeah, no information. All right, back to the top. EIN confirmation. Oh, wait, hold up. Wait a second. I think I saw something. You can get an EIN free directly from the IRS. Apply online. Bingo. That's the one. Oh, still not a form yet. Okay, how it works: complete the application in one session. You can't save it for later. It expires after 15 minutes. Okay. Oh, there it is. And I'm in there, right? I start the application, and by the end of this, I have an EIN. It just so happens that's free. All right, I got the EIN. I got the business registered. Next thing, register for the taxes. Sometimes you may need to register for taxes. This is a may need to, right? Like I don't know that I did this. I may have gone through this step just to be thorough, but like again, these websites used to be a big obstacle, because I'm gonna tell you right now, like me at like when I first did my first contract, was not gonna read any of this and would have just been like, you know what, it's just gonna have to be under the table, because it's gonna have to be under the table, because I ain't gonna read all that. But me now with ChatGPT to read for me, it gives me 15 seconds and I'll have a registered business for however much it costs. Right? from there, like it points out opening a business bank account. Like at this point, once you've done those other two steps, you got the EIN, you got the forming documents, you got you go get your license if you need it, but like you're a business now. Like there's nothing more to do there. Like if somebody asks you for something, they're not going to ask you for anything more than these two things in reality. And as I point out, like open a business bank account, they're asking for those two things. So that's how I did it, and it took me like literally no time.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. Like you kind of, I don't know, man, you kind of just take away like, I guess if it's not even you taking away excuses, it's kind of become easier because of the tools. Like there used to be so much friction in the process, and like, admittedly, the websites themselves are kind of like very confusing and hard to navigate. I often say that people like want to comply, and like you probably would have done it sooner if it were easier. It's just like there's so much complication that you just said, forget it, you know? I was gonna say, just like a note, the formation document. So you'll often see that also called like the articles of organization. If you ever see that like somewhere, or someone asks for that, like a bank or something, that's what they're asking for. Another note on that, if you have a partner, potentially, you will have something called an operating agreement, or you should. And that is like a private agreement that you create between yourselves. Again, not legal advice, consult an attorney, but that's like I've done a few of those as well. And like it's literally a private agreement between you and your partners, should you ever need it for something or whatever. But the articles of organization is just the formation, those formation, what do they call them? Formation documents, documents, I think,
Documents
for the company.
Yeah. It's easy. It's really easy. And the thing about it is that like it feels complex until you sit down with the like almost all knowing machine, and then it tells you how to do this thing. Right? Like it becomes easy because you don't have to sit there and trudge through like 2 pages of documentation, when in reality you just need it one form.
Can you talk about the benefits of finishing? Because I know it's like it's easy to start. Now we have the all-knowing machine now to help us through that process. But when you finished it, like what was the relief? Like what was like you get your nice documents back from the Alabama State Commission, and you can post up on your wall. You can have it in your bio. You can add it to your website, add it to your email signature. How did that feel for you both?
I would say like for me, it didn't really change much because like I was already operating as Paul Lockett, and now I can put a different name on the thing. But at the end of the day, the people came for Paul Lockett. What it did do, however, was like allow me to have a little bit more peace of mind when knowing that like I got a card from my business bank, and I can use that card for the business things. And I have my personal card that's separate. The separation was the biggest piece for me, because like that gives me a lot of clarity inside my own finances, but it also allows me to know that when taxes come back around, I'm not going to be in a scramble. That was the biggest like kind of like change for me. Outside of that, like people still give me contracts, and I put what I put on those contracts.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like not much. Like Paul started out with, like not much change. I honestly kind of thought the same thing. I would actually argue it adds a layer of complexity. So, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but like, it definitely doesn't. Again, going back to my thought earlier, it definitely does not need to be the first thing on your list, because it does add complexity. So here are some things that it adds. Now that you have an entity, you know how to do a tax return for that entity. An LLC is what's called like a pass flow entity. So like all the income from it like flows through to your personal tax return, but you still have to do books and bookkeeping and a tax return for the entity to know what like flows through to your personal account. So that's one thing. Second, in Alabama, there's a thing called there's an Alabama privilege tax. not a huge deal, but it's something you got to do. Like it's a minimum of like $100-something every year or whatever. The first year you create an entity, you actually have to pay that. So it's just like, it's just another thing that you have to do and keep up with or whatever. So, I would say it actually adds like a little bit of complexity, but of course it it gives you legitimacy as well when you're like sending invoices and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think for folks that do a lot of like B2B transactions, like my transactions are very rare. I'm not doing like 15 different contracts for software engineering every year. Like there may be two or three. They're very large, but there's just two or three, and they're having a conversation with me, not this like unknown entity. When you're a business and you're doing lots of small transactions very quickly, like seeing your name on like somebody seeing your name is not as fun as somebody seeing XYZ Corporation or XYZ LLC, because that feels more legitimate. Even if you're like, and again, this is like in my head, it's just all about how many transactions you're doing. Because like if you're sitting there selling like ice cream out of a truck, you wouldn't want like Paul Locke's ice cream being the thing that comes on there inside of their like bank statements. You'd rather it be like an actual business name, because that legitimacy is like so critical inside of these businesses that require more trust over many transactions. Whereas like for me doing a lot of contract work, it like the trust was inside of me as a person, and it's more valuable inside of me as a person, and they would trust less a business name than an actual person.
I also want to talk about. I like how we're progressing through this conversation. Like now we've gotten to entity phase. And one thing you both mentioned is your types of accounts. And Brooks, you mentioned doing things like needing bookkeeping. What tools, team, people do you have in your Rolodex to do these things, such as like who do you have for your business banking account, business checking account? What tools you use to keep track of your books or accounting, or your receipts? Um, who do you where do you go to file these taxes?
So I'll start because mine is going to be a little bit more funky for folks who are non-technical. So I use Mercury as the business bank. So right after I made my business, like I
Shout out
immediately went
Mercury.
to Mercury, right?
Mercury.
And the reason why I went to Mercury is because like it's a bank made for startups and developers, and they have all the fun tools and toys that a developer might want to use when they're playing around inside financial data. Um, Now I have that, and that is very helpful. It gives me a card, it gives me a credit card as well, so I can start my business credit. Like it does all those things automatically, and I don't have to think about them. Now, the other side of it, when it comes to bookkeeping and being able to keep track of things, like when I need to go report on my taxes and things like that, what I've done, and again, this is another privilege of having a business entity, is that I made a Plaid account. Okay. So if you've ever logged into any financial service, you've had to log into Plaid, right? Where you go open up the financial service that asks you to log into your bank. And then the way that you log into your bank on some other app is through Plaid most of the time. I went to Plaid, and using my LLC, I made a Plaid developer account. And with that, I can access all the information, all of my banks, personal or otherwise. And so I can get full access to all my banking data. Now, with that access, I can do things like ask ChatGPT questions about my banking information, because all I need is the API access, and I can just have it look at my bank accounts in the safest way possible, the same way that your Robinhood account or whatever other financial services app that you might use does. And so like I'm able to access the information and get it the way that I need it, regardless of what's happening. I can ask really interesting questions, I can ask complex questions, I can ask simple questions. Now, outside of that, I do have like a tax preparer that I'll work with, so that they can so that they can tell me what they need, and then I can go tell the AI what I need, and then the AI gives it to me, and then I give it to them. And now I don't have to think about taxes or anything else ever again, because everything like one step automated, outside of me just having to talk to my tax preparer, talk to the AI, and give what the AI makes to my tax preparer.
That's clutch. I'm gonna sign up for a Plaid developer account right after this.
All right, Manuel, if you figure that out, hit me up, and then I'll be forced to also do that, because Paul mentioned that to me, and I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. So So my situation is the opposite of that. I have not used Plaid. All right, there's a few things. One, I cannot stand having to get like, I do not like bookkeeping. I've had a bookkeeper for years. I still hate bookkeeping, because just because you have a bookkeeper doesn't mean you don't have work to do. Like I still have work to do. Getting a bookkeeper access to the bank statements and credit card statements and all that stuff is not easy. I also now bank with Mercury. So funny. So that's 3 for 3, I think, on this call. I have accounts with Mercury, and on Mercury you can add them as a user on your account, so they can have read-only access and check that stuff out. That doesn't completely solve my problem, because I still have like PNC Bank and like a few different credit cards like in our companies or whatever, and so I have to get all those statements, drop them all into a Dropbox folder, which is what I do. Share them with Bookkeeper. Bookkeeper, creates reports for me to look at. I have to make my own entries for them. They give me a final report. I then give that to CPA. And there's no I'd like to say that there is a simple way around that for me, but there really has not been. And I've used multiple softwares and stuff. Like, I don't want to use QuickBooks Online. And part of the reason I don't want to use it is because I'd have to pay for 2 different things for 2 different entities. I found a really cool tool called Wave Apps, which I was using for the last few years. And but they were a startup, and now I think they have changed what they're doing. And so now there's like a good bit of cost at the level where I was at and I was even able to do personal, have a personal like bookkeeping as well, like a personal, and treat it like a company, and then like my 2 entities. And so they've changed what they're doing. So my process has like changed slowly over time. And just recently, I'll throw this out, just recently for my personal, I tested it with my personal bookkeeping, like my personal P&L. I grabbed all of my like credit card statements, bank statements, tossed it into Claude, and was asking it to create me a P&L. And I'm going to compare that to what they do to see how close it is. If it's really close, then I'm gonna have some talks with my current bookkeeping team, and we're gonna have some renegotiations and like change how we do things.
Nice. I love the variability between both your answers too. I think people can start from, a variety of places. And when I say that, on the flip side, you've talked about your accounts got set up. Now, when it comes to actually receiving the funds for a business, you're selling a product or a service. For products, I'm not sure if you both sell those, but if you do sell those, what tools are you using? Are you using like a point of sale system? Like, are you using something built inside of Mercury? Are you, if for a service, are you using something where you're creating an invoice? Are you writing the contracts yourself? Are you using AI to help you write these contracts? And what goes inside of the contract to make sure that you get paid fairly and on time? I know it's a broad question.
Yeah. Well, I'll start because I'll rewind back in time some with like some of the previous. So there's a point where we had a women's clothing boutique on wheels. Another story for another day. My wife and I ran that together. We sold we used Shopify. So we used like the online store, and then they had like a point of sale card reader as well. I have in the past used, and I still today use Square as well. I've done a lot of invoicing through Square, and then I've also sold, like, used the physical card reader that you can take credit cards and sell a physical item. So I've used that. And I'm slowly trying to merge over my most recent invoices I've had to send out. I used Mercury. And so I'm trying to move over eventually from Square into Mercury so that I can like move all of that into one system. I think I answered your question. You're talking about like about getting paid fairly in contracts. I'm I'm probably a little more cavalier than a lot of people. I very I don't really like contracts unless it's like for something big. I'm happy to do it, but I will create something simple. Here's my opinion on. At the end of the day, a contract is just like a thing that you write on paper that like you have to uphold legally if someone doesn't abide by it anyway. I view this is Brooks. I view contracts as more of just like, hey, what did we discuss? Let's like make sure we're on the same page. I try to make sure they're not more than like one page. If I am doing something for someone that's like a service or if I don't know a person, I may require like a deposit for work done or something. You know, if someone was doing like, for example, like a website or some kind of sponsorship piece of content, those are like types of things I've done in the past. I may require like 25% upfront or half deposit upfront and then the balance at fulfillment. So I know that was broad, but hopefully that'll help someone out there with some of that.
Yeah. For me, I've recently started doing some products, specifically SaaS products where like inside of it, for example, Deed Roots, it's a website. You can pay a subscription to the website or buy like one at a time the provenance or history of ownership for individual property in Mobile. Now, like that's a product, and I use Stripe to be able to handle those transactions. If you go to Deedroot's website and click purchase or subscribe or any of the buttons on the pricing page, it will take you to Stripe, and then you can fill out your Stripe information there. That is products, and that is an individual product that like it just sold through Stripe. Now, again, I made the website using AI. I make the Stripe like connection and everything using AI as well. The only thing I really had to do, again, because I have a business entity, to go to Stripe and then put my business entity information inside of Stripe. And then Stripe says if it looks good, and then now I can send out payment links in however way I want. And if I needed like a custom payment link because I just wanted to charge somebody differently for some reason, maybe we were doing something more complex, but still in the purview of what Deedroot is, then I can like have the AI make me a custom Stripe link and just pass that link out to somebody. Now, inside of full-on software contracting, where I'm doing like a $60,000 deal or something like that, in those cases, I'm going to sit down and make contracts. Now, what I use to make a contract is this thing called, and again, like really, there's a whole bunch of these like legal tools and services that you can that are online. The one that I use is called. Let me make sure I got the right name. It's called Law Depot. Okay, Law Depot is what I've used multiple times. They have a free trial. You can try it out and see if what they give you is usable for your own tasks. They have a cool little template that like lays out a software contracting template. I use that template and then I make some edits. They have a little workflow we can go through to put in individual specific details about whatever you're about to do. I do that, and then like it's only like $35 a month or something like that for Law Depot, and I basically pay for 1 month, get the contract that I need, and then pass it to the client. The client signs it, I sign it, and then we're on to the races, and then they can pay me. Now, when I accept payment, what used to happen is that I would ask them, how would you like to give me payment? And I send them an invoice. And again, invoice is just a document that says how much do you owe me. And I send them, I make a PDF and I send them a PDF that says, here's how much you owe me, like how you want to pay. Then I have this conversation back and forth with them, depending on who it is. Some people want to pay with cards. Some people are like, oh, let me give you a check. Some people say like Cash App, like Venmo, whatever it might be. People pay in the same ways that they pay each other. Okay, I'm gonna make it really, really clear. Like it's not like there's some magical payment that you get for money for businesses, but like it's the same stuff that you use when you pay your friends. And so like generally it'll end up being inside of that realm. Other times, and now because I have like a business bank account, I can use Mercury and I can send a invoice from Mercury. Now that makes it really easy because what Mercury will do is they'll send an email, it'll send a reminder, it'll do all these extra things that I would normally have to do when I'm sitting here doing these types of invoices. And so now when I set up a contract, instead of like sitting here thinking about, oh my gosh, I need to make sure that I like send them an invoice and then do this and this and this, Once I get the contract done and they signed it, I go straight to Mercury and then I set up like automatic emails at the times that I said that payment should be distributed. And so on the end of the month, they get an email from Mercury that says like, "Hey, here's your invoice. Here's how much you owe, and here's when it's due." And I don't have to think about it. And they get the email and then they send me the money, and then it all gets processed through Mercury. And the way that Mercury has it set up is happening through Stripe. And so that's how I end up like doing a lot of it now, because by doing it that way, they again get a Stripe link instead of having to figure out how to Cash App or Venmo me or send me money through Zelle. They can just swipe their card the same way they would swipe their card on anything on the internet. That's how I do it now, and that's how I handle contracts versus like individual products.
Nice.
One big issue with it though, just to let you know, is that Stripe will take 1% of anything that goes through them. Okay. So if you're hurt for that 1%, Cash App it is. Talk to your client.
They do have a Cash App business account. Amazing how much stuff they're coming out with the tools we already use. I think Venmo might have Venmo for Business too.
Yeah. PayPal has one as well. Like they all gonna have different fees though. Just to let you know, they're gonna have different fees. Look at the make sure you know how much you're giving up when you set up with one of these accounts, because they will take a percentage to send your invoices and emails and whatnot. But to be able to get somebody to just swipe a card makes it a whole lot easier especially if you're working with businesses, because businesses love to swipe their credit cards versus trying to figure out how to pay you in cash or other methods.
When it came to setting up your online presence, what things did you need? Did you have to create? Did you go out and buy a domain name for your company's website or your product or service? Did you, get a custom email address domain, or did you just take something simple like yourbusinessname@gmail.com? Do you set up social media? How does your online presence work for both of your businesses?
So I get this one off pretty simple. So first, when I was registering the business and I was thinking of a business name, I was like, oh man, I really want to have the business name also be the website name. Because, if people know the business name, then it would be easier for them to actually go find the website as well. And so what I did is I went to this website called Cloudflare, which is a wonderful website for securing and making sure that you have like your website secure and things like that. But they also sell domains. And like they sell domains a lot cheaper than some other like domain selling websites. And so I got pimandco.com, right? And with that pimandco.com, I can also send emails through there, because Cloudflare just allows you to set up emails and things like that with their domain service. Mind you, Cloudflare is like free, and the domain cost me probably like $10. Now, the other piece of it is that like I then made a website and I use Replit to do that. For $20 a month, I have access to Replit to be able to edit and do fun things to my website. And so I literally went to Replit, uploaded my resume and uploaded some examples of previous contracts and said, hey, make me a website for my new company. And this is what it did. These are pieces of like things that you see on my resume if you were to open up my resume. And generally, if I'm going to sit down and work with folks on a software products, it's probably going to be something based on things that I've worked on in the past. So you can see some of the things that I've worked on here. And then I even had to put in my links and numbers and everything else so that people can reach out to me, talk to me, and set up some time to work with me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Why is Cloudflare free for everything? Random side
question.
Because
it's simple. It's because they're a fantastic company and they are really, really interested inside of being the only way that you access the internet, much like an AT&T or other like almost monopoly company. Give out the free things so that you can sell the more expensive stuff.
So what is their actual product that they're selling?
The actual product they're selling is for the businesses that really make it large. So like, for example, let's say my pimandco.com website like gets real popular. Okay. And not only does it get so popular, there's people who are clicking this work with me button all day long and looking to do really interesting things with me all the time. Right. It is very possible that Replit's website that they stood up for me and designed for me and everything ends up crashing because 50,000 people from China decide to all at the same time open up this website. Now, if those 50,000 people from China are not real customers, real people interested inside of Pim & Co and the services that we have available, and they're in fact hackers and robots, then Cloudflare for $5 to $20 a month will make sure that those people don't actually break my website.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry, that was a quick sidetrack, but people watching this may want to know that too. So
yes.
So I have not set up a website or branding under my entity names, like either one. So, well, actually, that's a lie, sort of a lie, because Forefront Real Estate LLC, we used to have a real estate brokerage, but this is like 8 years ago, and so forefrontre.com was our website for that. But we no longer even have that brokerage. We still have the entity. So like there's nothing related to it. And same with Kia Marketing LLC. Like, for example, the previous company, the brand that I recently sold, the Mobile Rundown, operated under Kia Marketing LLC. I didn't sell the entity. I sold the assets, and I run other stuff under that company as well. So like there's nothing there's nothing like under Kia Marketing LLC, like any website or branding like that. That's the way that that's the way I operate. And honestly, I would say a lot of people probably do something similar. You know, a lot of big companies would, you know, like public companies like would do similar stuff. It may be the same name, it may not be like their actual entity name.
How about a phone number? Paul, I saw you have one listed in your bio. Yeah. Below on your site. Brooks, do you have a phone number for yours too?
No, yeah. I have different numbers for different like projects. Depending on like what I'm working on, but nope. I don't.
Yeah, so my phone number is just my phone number. And the reason why is because like I set up my phone number to be very, very smart about filtering out messages. So like anybody could try to message me, like in theory. But what happened is that more than likely you will get filtered out unless you try to dig a little deeper and do something that actually got you past the filters. Now, if, for example, you tried to call me and I don't know your number, you wouldn't get like you wouldn't actually reach me. My phone wouldn't ring and it simply wouldn't work. Like the number is there, especially for people who are very interested inside of working with me. And you need to message me inside of multiple different ways to be able to get in contact with me, unless you try to schedule actual time with me through one of the links that I provide. And so like understanding that the number's there and it's open to people, but like there's a lot of walls and things you have to go through to be able to prove to the systems around me, not to me directly, to the systems around me, that you are a real person that is interested inside of doing business with me. And so like, I know in this day and age that I'm going to get 1,000 AIs calling me at any given moment, especially inside the work that I do. And so like I have defenses built up around that. And so like the real people can get through, but like a purpose has to be made for that person to get through. And there's ways to get through. And it's really easy if you truly want to get through to me.
Nice. I can like imagine the digital safeguards that you've placed out blocking out the bots. Or if you could go back in time for starting your own, spin up your own entities and ventures, what are some things that you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
I wouldn't have started an LLC in college without creating something that was going to generate some money. And then I would have created a company, like the actual entity.
I would have started the LLC after my first contract.
So you would have started yours earlier than you
did?
No.
No. After the first contract that I had where like it had my name on it instead of a business name, I would have started the LLC then. Because like at that point, that's where I'm like where I recognize like that's where the separation should have happened, so that Like, I just got money, woo, but I need to make sure this business money versus personal money and separate things out properly. That's what I want to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's my only one for me.
Could you both share an anecdote about how you made your first dollar through your businesses?
Mm, mm. I can do this one. It was more recent for me. I know Brooks is thinking back to all the money he's been made online.
I sold
So
some lollipops. Yeah, to a kid in
so
school.
the first time that I made money inside of this line of work is generally when. So here's what happened. Here's the kind of background. I was working inside of tech during the great layoffs, right? And it just so happens that I get laid off 3 times in the same year, right? Now, here's the thing about a tech layoff, okay? It's not the fact that you just lose your job, but you lose your job, but you get money to also like right after you lose your job, right? And so, like, yeah, you lose your job. You know, you sit there. I remember I sat inside of I was in California at the time, and I went downstairs inside of my apartment complex to sit down and get some work done in the morning. And my manager sat down and was like, "Hey, Paul, I gotta talk to you." And then he tells me that I'm getting laid off. But every time I've gotten laid off, I got a severance package. Okay. And this is something, if you go work somewhere and you've been working for a couple of years, you want to ask for this type of thing, the severance package. Because like what the severance package basically did was it said, like, okay, you're getting let go today, but you're gonna get paid like you haven't gotten let go for another 2 months or another 3 months. And that happened 3 times to me inside of the same year. And so when I sat down and I was sitting here like getting free money for doing nothing while I was going and job hunting, I'm like, you know what? I should probably figure out how to continue to make sure that I keep getting money without having to worry about this whole people laying me off thing. And that's when I started doing contracting. And so what I did to start contracting was basically looking at my experience, the same what you see on my Pimlico website. It's just my resume. I then go and talk to some folks that I know are like in the middle of multiple businesses. In fact, inside this case, I went to because I was in California. I went to Founders Inc. It's a venture capital and a venture studio firm. I walked myself right up into there and said, "Hey, I'm looking for work. I got I'm doing some cool things around AI and whatnot, and I'd love to be able to help with some of the startups here. I'm looking for contract work." Right? I heard this like idea of contract work and people do contract stuff. Like, cause I remember at the startup that I was working at, they had contractors up in there and they were getting paid a whole bunch of money. I was like, what's up with them? And so I was like, let me be one of them. Let me just ask some people. Let's see what happens. And they gave me a contract. Like within that week, they sat down and they gave me a contract. They said, well, we'll try you for a week or two. I had gotten to a new job. But like I was sitting inside that new job and they had gave me a contract. I was like, all right, I'm doing contract work now with my regular jobs. And now I got 2 things going on and I got more money coming in. And so I was doing that, and that was like the very first way that I did it. I remember like when I walked up into F Inc., like nobody knew who I was. It just so happened that like I saw them on Twitter talking about contractors. I messaged them on Twitter, and then they were like, "Come by," and I said, "All right, say less." I rolled up in there and just started shaking hands and talking to people until I met the person in charge, and then he brought me into his office. I sat down with him, and we talked about like what I'm interested in. And he said, "All right, let's lock you in one of our startups." And then like I want to say like 4 weeks later, I ended up stop working with them because like they were interested in hiring me, but I had already had a full-time job at that point, so it was too late. And so that's where I started inside of contracting.
Paul making more money getting laid off than working anywhere, man. Paul,
That's that's
you making
for
that
real.
cheddar getting laid off, man.
For real.
getting them severances and then going to land a new one. That's pretty impressive, man.
The key thing, and like what was really different from my friends is why I'm really blessed this side of it is that like I have a tenacity to go and get another job, right? Because like a lot of my friends, they'll be sitting there, they'll be trying to get a job, but then like their severance will run out before they actually get to the next job. For me, I was sitting there really trying to game the system. I'm like, I got 3 months of payment. But if I can get a job in 1 month, then I get twice the money. This is the way I was thinking about it. It's like, you know, we should get laid off. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job anymore. What's going on? Me, I'm sitting there like, yo, there's a wonderful opportunity in front of me right now. And if I lock in good enough, things are gonna turn out fantastic. That's the way I was coming at it. And a lot of people don't feel that way when they get laid off, when they don't have a job anymore. But that's how I think to this like type of situation.
Thinking positive, man. You're thinking positive. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't have a great example. I was trying to think of one. I think like the earliest thing would have been for real estate for me, my real estate entity. I started in my earliest days, I was doing something called wholesaling. And I sold like another investor's like real estate deal. It's kind of funny story. He was like, hey, if you can find a buyer for this, he's like, yeah, I'll like split the like contract amount with you. And so that was like my first like revenue in real estate. And then I ended up starting an entity LLC with that guy, renovating houses. I'm still good friends with him today. Like we renovated a bunch of houses and like bought and sold. Anyways, that company doesn't exist anymore, but like that was like my introduction into like the real estate world. Anyways, that's all I could think of.
Cool.
Is there anything I haven't asked that you'd like to share with the current audience watching this?
No, I would just like, I don't think so. I don't think I can think of anything you haven't asked. I feel like we've touched on it all. I'm just gonna say it again. Like Paul literally sat down and walked you through in 5 minutes how to start your entity. So it's like, if it's something you need to do, like don't get caught up in the confusion. Ask an AI tool and it will walk you through it. If there's something you don't understand, grab a screenshot, put it in. What do I do next? What do I do next? Like, just keep asking and it'll explain it to you. That's one. If you actually need to start it, I'm gonna say it again. Don't worry about starting your entity if you don't actually have like $1 created, or like, you know, if you're just getting going in your company, if you're not starting like a construction company or like a retail store or whatever, or something, some like larger company with a bigger, if you're doing more of a micro like startup, which I feel like a lot of our audiences, they're like smaller scale working on something on the side, like build the thing on the side, get a customer, get a couple of people to pay you, and then like worry about setting up the entity later. So sorry. I know I'm like broken record. I just feel like it's kind of important to like keep saying that stuff.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. At the end of the day, a business is just you trying to get money from people. Let's keep it simple. Like it really doesn't have to be complex. Did somebody give you money? You have a business. Great. Do you need to like get EIN or some other business documentation? Get it. Right? Like keep it simple. It ain't gotta be hard. It ain't gotta be complex. We have the technology. Modern problems require modern solutions, and we got them.
Modern problems require modern solutions. I like that. I'll write that down somewhere.
Yeah, stole that one.
Cool. Well, that's all I have for this business formation roundtable. Thank you both for joining in and sharing your sauce with us.
Absolutely.
Sure thing.